So this session focuses on whether or not you can achieve climate positive growth.
So let's start with a statement of the obvious. Big business is a big part of the problem. Advertised emissions added an extra 32% to each person in the UK's carbon footprint. That number has actually gone up to 32%.
We're facing an existential threat to our future. Why on earth aren't people changing?
The first of the barriers, no surprise. The current version of capitalism that we employ as our economic system means this is pretty substantial. The primacy of short-term profit growth. You may say it's greed, but for the CEOs, I guess, that we're trying to talk to, we're asking them to jump first and potentially take the impacts of that to your business and potentially lose your business. Jobs of hundreds of thousands of people, the responsibilities you believe you hold as representative shareholders. But we are seeing some hope here. No longer are we expecting these people to jump first, put that business at significant risk. What we're starting to see are collaborations and coalitions forming. This is an example of 7 pharma CEOs bringing their businesses together to work out how they accelerate the path to net zero. This feels possible.
So the second barrier we've termed small cog, big machine. Individually, whether it's individuals in a company, whether it's departments in a company, whether it's individual companies, this feeling that actually you can't make much of a difference. But what gives us hope, a couple of things. And the first one is an example with Seventh Generation, who we've worked with. And they were formed many years ago on the basis of being ecologically friendly. So we were working with the CEO, or the former CEO of Seventh Generation, and we said to him, Joey Bergstein, we said, what are you most proud of? He said, but the thing I'm most proud of, the thing that I'm most proud of is the impact that a small little company like Seventh Generation is having on Unilever's thinking about its supply chain. Now, has that changed completely? No. But that probably wouldn't have happened as fast if Seventh Generation hadn't been in the mix. But the impact within the organization, the small cog driving the bigger machinery, is a big deal. The second one is when you join together, the impact of those voices has the ability to have real change. And that was one of the reasons, or one of the things we've learned from joining the B Corp group, that we can have more impact together than alone.
Okay, the third one, we've called this one Look at Our Green Creds, or alternatively, Look at Our Greenwashing Creds. So this is the inaction caused by sound bites. Sitting in a company, you can say, but hey, look at our beautiful brochure, look at what our CEO said, or look at this target that's 30 years hence. We're okay, we're doing all the good stuff, aren't we? I don't need to take any action myself, or we don't need to take any action as a group. These people feel they're doing the right thing, actually, as a result. But we are seeing some hope again. Firstly, is regulators are starting to have some teeth. You cannot get away with saying stuff and not being held to account. The second one comes from within companies themselves. So I sat on the supplier conference for one of the big pharmaceuticals companies, Sanofi, and they talked about 2 things. One, they're going to audit all of their suppliers for scope 1 and 2 emissions. So their current supplier base needs to stand up and be counted in terms of their own emissions. Secondly, they're going to buy future services on the basis of 2 obvious things: cost and competence, their ability to impact Sanofi's scope 3 emission. And they actually said on the conference they're going to weight that last one more heavily than the first 2. And the third thing, I particularly like this one, which is groups that are starting to take commitments and promises, analyze them with forensic detail to work out if they're true or not, whether progress has been made or not, whether there is an ability to actually deliver what's been said. There's no hiding here now. There are plenty of groups like this that are holding governments and organizations to account.
7 lessons, which we hope might be helpful. And these are things we found are pretty important for us being successful in helping our big clients make changes. And the first one is brave public leadership. When you run a big corporation, brave public leadership can be quite a hard thing. You are judged on whether you deliver against the things you state in public. Big corporations don't make public commitments very often that they don't know how they're going to achieve. Brave public leadership doesn't look like that, though, which is we started working with Unilever shortly after they published their first Sustainable Living Plan. They had no idea how they were going to deliver it. And that, in a corporate world, is incredibly brave. I still think the quote from Paul Pullman, if a goal's not making you uncomfortable, it's not aggressive enough, is a really powerful one. The second lesson we've learned is we all start in different places. And so if you create a coalition of the willing in those early adopters and innovators, because we're a social species, guess what? But it looks successful and exciting, and then people start joining you. And then you don't have to spend all that energy trying to convince the laggards to change their mind.
So one of the things that it's very easy to do if you take any of these different audiences in an organization or even outside of an organization is it's very easy to judge them. And it's very easy to label them quite negatively and to say those people, right? To say those people, what they're doing or what they're not doing. You have to move from judgment to understanding. And we can do that in the climate change debate when we're talking to people where we go, I don't understand why they don't get it. Yeah? Understand why they don't get it. So we've spoken there briefly about the individual, but we have to think about them as well as the system within which they live and work and how that system affects them. And a really classic marketing tool is to think about a change journey. It's not a change moment, it's not a change initiative, it's a change journey.
Okay, fifth lesson, make it central to commercial strategy. All too often we find that there's a little team that does the environment and social responsibility stuff, and they sit in a separate office, usually along some corridor, and they are not central to what the business does every day. And if it's not central to what everyone in the business is doing, guess what? The impact isn't very great.
This one's based on a bit of a paradox. Why would someone with really strong values, really strong commitments, when they come into the construct of an organization, do things that feel counter to who they are? That if we try and inspire a change without readdressing the frameworks that sets of decisions are made within, we're going to cause mayhem, and quite quickly we're going to run out of steam. Specifically, we need to get people to look both upstream of the impacts and downstream of the impacts of each of those decisions. But the reality is that nothing will change unless we surround that with an ecosystem of a new culture, number one. Number two, new skills. So people need to have quite different skills than they've had so far in these organizations to address those questions properly. Then lastly, a new ability to make decisions off different parameters, different metrics.
Okay, the seventh of the 7 lessons. So simple places to start. Now, by the very fact you're here, I know that you'll all know what a carbon footprint is or a scope 1, 2, 3 emission. You might be surprised, maybe you're not surprised, by how many senior people in big organizations actually don't know that. And worse than the fact that they don't know those things is the fact that they're now too embarrassed to ask, okay? Because it's like a bit embarrassing that you don't know what those things are that everyone's talking about. So earlier this year, we partnered with the WFA, which is the World Federation of Advertisers, and we created a free-to-access resource that basically, in 10 steps, took people through what they needed to do in terms of climate change. And we hope it's helpful. So if you're interested, that is the code.
Okay, so those were our 7 lessons. Just in our experience, what we have learned that we felt was things that gave us hope and positivity, that we felt was causing impact and change, that was helping us shift the needle.
So thank you for your time and for the questions. And goodness, we hope we can make a difference on this big global issue. Thank you.